Hey guys, MVC here for the ScanPro Gaming tab for another Logitech video review. This time we're actually checking out the G302 Daedalus Prime MOBA gaming mouse, which is a mouse I actually purchased myself as I no longer have the same contact at Logitech. And after having good impressions with the G402 and G502, I had to check it out. But this is essentially the G402 sensor without the fusion technology increasing the max tracking speed for FPS players, geared toward the MOBA player by lightening up those mouse buttons, getting them closer to the G502 level, even lighter in fact, and then adding springs inside to allow them to bounce back up despite having that low force requirement, and put into an ambidextrous yet still right-handed shape as it only features side buttons on the left. But that's kind of the overview, which we're about to jump into, and then we'll have a look at driver software, some bit of gameplay, and come back right at the end with my final thoughts, feelings, and conclusions as whether you guys should go out and pick up this mouse if you're in the market. But as a bit of a teaser, I kind of view this mouse as Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. And if you hate it, well, there's the G402, and if you hate it and you're a lefty, well, they've still got the G100s, but I'm pretty sure somewhere down the line, as we have with the 02 series so far, we'll see a G102 to replace the G100s, but that's of course just speculation and guesswork. But yeah, it would have been nice. I don't know why we haven't got side buttons on both, but whatever. Anyway, overview, let's jump in. The Logitech G302 is a right-handed ambidextrous design mouse with 6 programmable buttons. However, the side buttons are only on the left, which is a little bit odd, as I do think they could be on both. It has a single Dpi Shift button up top to coincide with that AM010 4000 Dpi optical grade gaming sensor, the same sensor found in the G100s and G402. However, unlike the G402, does not feature the fusion technology to increase the max tracking speed, so you will be capping out at about 120 inches per second in best case scenario, which in real world performance on a SteelSeries QCK translated to 2.8 meters per second. Good for me up to about 33 to 34 centimeters for a 360, which we'll get into shortly. In terms of shape and grip, this is definitely not designed for the palm grip player, but can still be used and will be comfortable for a lot of people. However, because the side slope are quite aggressively inwards, if you push down whilst palm gripping the mouse, it does wobble a little bit, and that can be translated into the crosshair in game when playing FPS games. But when fingertip or claw gripping it, the superior grip for this mouse in my opinion, there are absolutely no issues. The only issue you could say is that because the side buttons are on the right hand side, you're kind of eliminating a small market here of people that could potentially use this mouse. But it's extremely light, coming at 87 grams, and the big thing here is it's geared toward the MOBA player. It has extremely light mouse 1 and mouse 2 buttons, and to have good feedback and response and bounce back, they've introduced what they're calling as a metal spring button tensioning system to allow it to bounce back and just improve those reaction times. And I'm a huge fan of the mouse 1 and mouse 2 buttons here with the mouse. But you get a 2-year limited warranty here, and in the box you get your mouse, user documentation, and if you want the software you're going to have to go ahead and download it from logitech.com, something we're going to jump into now and have a quick overview and look at. So as always, hit up logitech.com, download the latest software, make sure you're up to date on firmware from the get-go so you don't run into any issues that may have already been ironed out. But once installed, this is what you're greeted with. You may notice it looks very similar to the G402, however lacks the fusion technology tab which we've got here, and in fact the technology pushing the max tracking speed from 3.3 that we got here on a brand new QCK since recording the overview, an increase from 2.8, so surface definitely makes a difference, to 4.7. So on the G302 we should be seeing about 3.3 as we've got here. But moving back, we can either run the mouse through onboard memory or through automatic game detection, which if we click this tab right here, you can set up your various game executable files to pretty much run off whatever profile you've got set up here for the mouse buttons, Dpi Shift, G Shift, stuff like that. But coming back, I actually run it through onboard memory, and if we go ahead and click this tab down here, we can set 5 DPI profiles up to 4000 DPI. I've got 400, 800, 1600, and use the DPI cycling button up here. Now you can also set a DPI shift button, which currently is set to the 400 setting, and if we go ahead and click this and hit edit, we can go down and just select DPI shift if we want to use that. We've also got G shift, which will give us a secondary function on all of the buttons, but unlike on the G402 and 502, which have an additional button here to make it useful, this one doesn't. So on the G302 you will be sacrificing one of your already probably in use buttons to get the functionality. But it supports polling rate of up to 1000 Hz, 1 millisecond, which is obviously what you want to use, over 500, which is 2 milliseconds, 250, which is 4, and 125, which is 8. Now, next tab along is lighting. In here, you've got your logo and your sides. Your side produce a neat little graphic on your mouse pad. Personally, I got them both enabled on a slight breathing effect. You can change the speed, all that good stuff, and it kind of animates here to show you what it's doing. We'll just set everything to max so you can kind of see. Next one along, we've got heat map. This is a new feature inherent on pretty much all the Logitech mice using LGS. Hit play, we can press all our buttons and it will give us a heat map over the course of a game. Also our key presses per minute if you're interested in that kind of thing, with various colours here. And also key duration heat map. Now next tab along we've got our settings, general, social media, 302, 402 as I've got both mice plugged in, profile and aux control, which is a neat application tying to an Android or iPhone. Get all your stats in game such as PC temperatures and also your mouse functions and things like that. Now we don't have an option here to include or enable prediction, which it allows us to draw straight lines like on the G502, but not a big deal. Not many people use that these days. We've got social media if you want to share your stats such as your heat maps, and we've got our firmware update button if you need to do that. Profiles if you want to save them and take them with you, or again, they do save on the mouse, and enable and disable this if you need it. But yeah, that's pretty much the software. If you want to go ahead and install that, I definitely recommend it. Some neat features here to mess around with. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into gameplay. So gaming with the G302 is kind of a mixed bag. Like Marmite, I would say you're either going to love it or you hate it. And initially I loved it. I thought it was very responsive. The mouse 1 and mouse 2 buttons, the lower actuation force and still bounce back you get through that metal spring technology was perfect. Coupled with the fast response times that Logitech are renowned for in the button side of things, just made for a great experience. Games like Counter-Strike Global Offensive were fantastic. Shoot Mania, anything with a railgun, Dirty Bomb with the sniper rifle. No complaints whatsoever, and MOBA players definitely gonna love this mouse. I can't imagine any MOBA player that would dislike it. But for me, the sloping inward side really became an issue when palm gripping the mouse, because I felt when pushing down on the mouse, I really missed my thumb being either on the thumb grip, like on the G402 that sloped outwards, or on the mouse pad, like I would get if the sides were straighter. Because they sloped inwards, I felt I was gripping the mouse more than I was getting grip on the surface, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So I think if you're a palm grip player, it's going to be very user dependent, but for claw and fingertip, I can't imagine anybody that would dislike this mouse. It has a large bottom, I would say. It kind of reminds me in some respect to the Mionix Avia, although that's a lot bigger. But it is a very comfortable, lightweight mouse, very accurate, very responsive in every respect. It's just, can you deal with the max tracking speed? And when it came to Counter-Strike Global Offensive, I used 33 to 34 centimeters for a 360. And when it came to doing a 180, I had no trouble. It did not malfunction. And again, 2.8 meters per second on my old QCK, 3.3 on a brand new one out of the box. So surface is definitely going to be a critical factor here, as is your sensitivity used. And if you use lower than 33, 34 centimeters, assuming you don't throw your mouse across the pad for the sake of throwing your mouse across the pad, you shouldn't have a problem with the max tracking speed. For those of you that lose a lower sensitivity, you might hit it, and it is possible if you really force it to malfunction, in which case it will look to the ceiling, look to the floor, or it will just stop moving dead, and that could be a problem. But for me, it was never really an issue, and playing pretty much any game was just a good experience. It's just, for me, palm gripping the mouse with that sloping sides, getting the slight bit of wobble as a result, just, yeah, I learned to, hate is a strong word, but I learned to not want to use it. Let's just call it that. But anyway, we'll go into my final thoughts and we'll talk a little bit more about this in more detail, and pretty much my overall thoughts on the mouse as to whether you should pick it up. So final thoughts for the G302, short, sweet and as quick as possible. And again, it is like Marmite. If you love the shape and you can deal with the lower max tracking speeds, because again, it is essentially a G402 without the fusion technology in a different shell. Only reason why it's called a mobile mouse in my opinion is the lack of fusion technology here in this sensor. Then you could potentially love this mouse. I really do think it is fantastic, and the mouse 1 and mouse 2 buttons, especially lightening up the actuation force requirement, really did make a difference playing games like Counter-Strike, Shoot Mania, railgunning people, one-dinging people as they popped out around corners. Just so responsive, and I would really like to actually see them put in this technology into future batches of the G402, which actually has heavier mouse buttons than the G502 that I prefer to some extent, but the G502 is just too heavy for me to use for FPS gaming. The G402, in my opinion, is perfect for right-handed users. If you're a right-handed palm grip player, pick up the G402. There's no reason really to consider this, apart from maybe it's on the lighter side. Now, it is, like I said, a comfortable palm grip mouse, but personally, if the sides weren't as aggressive coming inwards toward the bottom, potentially could have swapped to it, but I like to push down on the mouse, and I found because they're so aggressive, there was a slight bit of wobble, and on top of that, I just like to have my thumb on the mouse pad. I feel like I get a bit more control over it, and because it slopes in aggressively, despite it not having a lip like the G402, which is a little bit annoying, but again ideal, it just doesn't touch the pad at all on the G302 just because of the aggressive slope. But again, nitpicking, and it may not be the same for you. It really is personal preference here. I just wish it kind of had side buttons on both sides, because even when you palm grip it, you do not accidentally activate the buttons if I was to hold it with my left hand. So I think the lefties might be a little bit annoyed at Logitech here, but I really do think Logitech at the moment are the go-to company for gaming mice. It's a fantastic product. I bought it myself to review because I've been so impressed with the 402 and 502, and I'm pretty sure they're going to have some of the things around the corner. We've not yet seen a G100s refresh without the side buttons, so we might see that come around the corner, a G102 maybe. That would probably be the next guess to come out on the radar from Logitech in terms of mice. Maybe even a G... In fact, the ultimate dream is a G9X still, with the customizable molds that you can put on top. You can even 3D print some molds for a G9X. Get whatever mouse shape you want almost. So G9X, a G902 maybe, G902X, I don't know, would be the ultimate goal. But anyway, regardless, we're going off topic. The G302, fantastic mouse. It is like Marmite. Check it out if you're in the market. But again, word of warning, low max tracking speed. It is going to be ideal for higher sensitivity users, but if you don't throw your mouse for the sake of throwing your mouse, you could potentially get away with it. I've been MVC here for the ScanPro Gaming Tab. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Any questions or comments, let me know and I will get back to you. But for now, we'll catch you next time here on the ScanPro Gaming Tab.